Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Profit Tool Belt podcast. Glad to be with you. My name's Dominic Rubino. Today, we're going to be interviewing Chaz Wolfe. Now, you might know Chaz already from one of his books or maybe from his podcast called Driven to Win. I was actually a guest on that show. Great interview by Chaz. But Chaz is going to talk to us today about balancing lean operations against an abundance mindset. And one of the most important things that I've come to learn over the years is that growth in business has a lot to do with mindset. Or as Brian Tracy once told me, gentlemen, we all have a 4-inch problem. Have I got your attention now? But what he meant was the space between our ears. When we fix our mindset, anything, really anything is possible. And we're going to be actually doing quite a few more episodes on making sure that we have the right success mindset. Thank you to guests like Chaz. Thank you to guests like Cameron and many others who've been, Cameron Harold and others who've been on the show. Chaz is going to walk us through this abundance mindset, and he certainly has lived it himself. He's got a fantastic background, and he's got a business ownership background, which is going to help us understand how to bring that lean mindset and abundance mindset together so we can make the most out of our operations in the field. Looking forward to having you on the other side. Let's go listen to what Chaz has to say. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Profit Tool Belt podcast. I've got Chaz Wolfe here. Hey, Chaz.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Well, absolutely. And you know, the mechanical, or I guess the electrical gremlins have been our friend today, haven't they?
They have been. That's okay. Hey, we're persistent. Here we are.
We're persistent. We know that we're charging forward. As I like to say, I'm so forward facing, I don't need back pockets on my jeans.
There you go. Hey yo, only front view mirror, right? Or only looking out the front.
Only out the windshield. Yeah,
that's right.
Now, the reason I have you here to talk to our audience is because you've got this perspective on lean operations and the abundance mindset.
Yeah.
Right. Fair to say.
Hey-o.
So we're gonna talk about that today. But before we get into that, can I ask you a pretty abrupt question?
Sure. What you got?
Chaz Wolfe, who the heck are you? And how is it you come to be speaking to all these forward-facing contractors all over the world?
Yeah, well, I mean, if they are listening to your show, I mean, they are forward-facing, they are forward-thinking, they're action takers, learners, all the fun things, and so I'm honored to be here. But Chaz Wolfe is a husband, father of 4, serial entrepreneur. Of course, I have a construction business and have been quite successful in that, but I've also got retail franchises. I've got a portfolio of real estate. I've got all kinds of other types of alternative investments. But what I'm most excited about is the community that I'm building called Gathering the Kings. We've got entrepreneurs from all across the country inside the community, and we help them win in all areas of life.
Yeah, I love it. So that's the only reason that you're here?
Well, the only reason I'm here is to serve you and your audience, to be honest. But actually, you and I had a little shindig on my show.
On your show, that's right. It was great.
A little bit back, and really just enjoyed your perspective and just your ability to be able to communicate in just such clear language. It's just totally my style, and so I wanted to return the favor because you did such a great job with my audience, and anybody that's linked up with you is already a friend of mine, and so I want to be able to provide as much value to your contractors and those listening here today with my little bit of experience.
Yeah. I appreciate that, and it was fun to be on your show too. So everybody, go listen to that one.
It was a good one.
Let's go back though and paint a picture, because people, they barely know me and they're just getting to know you. Tell us a little bit about your contracting businesses.
Yeah. So the experience I've got is in full remodels. We do bathrooms, basements, kitchens, additions. We've renovated whole houses. Before we did that for others, as a contractor, we just did it for ourselves. We were real estate, investors and purchased homes and renovated whole homes and sold them, and all the fun things that that a lot of contractors get into. I've got a real estate background and other creatives, short-term rentals and multifamily, all kinds of fun stuff there. But as far as the trades go, I'd sold advertising for a long time in different ways. A lot of my clients were in the trades, and so I've been familiar with the trades. I've been familiar with construction from a marketing and business perspective. I'm definitely a business guy that has put on the hat of a construction owner. And never been on a job site, so I'm not going to tell you how to swing a hammer or what looks good inside of a design, because that's not me, and I'm not even shy about saying that. I'm absolutely a business owner who knows how to run multiple different styles of businesses in different industries, and so my unique perspective is team building and the ability to run an efficient operation in any industry.
Yeah. I think what you've just done is earned yourself a spot to host my show when I go on vacation. Because and I say that with respect because this entire show is about being a businessman who just happens to be a contractor.
Yeah,
And it's that mindset shift, isn't it? Where
it
you
is.
said with pride, I don't know how to swing a hammer. I mean, I came up through the trades and then I moved into some other industries,
Yeah,
and I'm sure you did as well. Like, you
yeah,
know how to swing a hammer, but the money's not in the sawdust.
yeah,
The money's
yeah.
in running the business, building the team, building the dreams for people, putting turkeys on the table at Thanksgiving for other families
Right.
means that I won too. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Well, there's different layers to that, and I think if we just kind of break it down a little bit, we've got kind of like the baseline work of what you're talking about, the actual
Mm.
swinging of the hammer. We've got the management of the work. We have communication that really kind of transcends, and then we have being able to think, and that's not something that I've just created on my own. That's something that I got from Myron Golden, but just levels of adding value. And so for me, as someone who's learned how to work hard, have a work ethic, okay, cool. I learned how to manage people, and
Mm.
I have a skill set of that, and even manage process. And then I have the ability to communicate and be able to organize process and be able to communicate with people and things happening in different ways. And then, of course, the top is to be able to have a vision and to be able to think and to be able to guide through thought, which then
Yeah.
trickles down into obviously all the other things. But I can take those skill sets and go, okay, now I'm going to be a construction guy, or now I'm going to be a retail guy, or whatever. It doesn't matter. If I've developed these skill sets, then I can be successful wherever I go.
Yeah. I really do appreciate that. I mean, when people look back at my past, it doesn't seem like anything's a straight line. I ran a large mail order pharmacy. I ran a global franchising company. I was
There you
a
go.
global franchisor, and I had a painting company at one point. You know, all sorts of things, but really it's business.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part that we tend to forget is that. Hold on, let me back up. I think the hard part is that a lot of the audience came up through the trades. They let's say renovations because they're a renovator and they started as their own trade and then realized, hey, they're good with people and they figured out how to put deals together. So now they're a reno person, right?
Yep.
But there's a difference between being that business owner who's a reno person. And I think you said it when you talked about vision.
Yeah.
You got to have a vision and then you have to stick to it and put the plan together.
Yeah. Well, and it's harder for those folks because like I don't know what I don't know. I don't know. I don't actually know how to do what they know. So it's harder for them to separate those two things.
Mm.
Just like, okay, so my first business at 24 is I bought a franchise called Edible Arrangements. And so in that business, I
Delicious.
know how to, yeah, yeah,
The pineapples. I don't know what kind of we
you're not the
talked about
first
this
person
on
that's
your
told me that.
show. Those those
That's amazing.
pineapples.
That's amazing. They're special. No. But in all seriousness, I know how to cut pineapple. I know how to dip strawberries. I know how to clean the toilet. I know how to do all of it. Now, luckily for me, I realized that just doing those things for very long was going to keep me in one location, and I couldn't have 7 in 3 states like I did. And so that's the gap though, is when I started going, okay, from one location to two, it was like, okay, I could actually be in
Mm.
2 locations at once. I don't care what people tell you. I could be in 2 places at once, and I could manage both things at the same time. But as soon as I went to 3, and then my 4th was in a different city, my 5th was in a different state. And so I had to automatically, I pushed myself to, okay, I have to solve problems in a completely different way.
Yes, I
Right.
love that. I love, one of the things that we say here on the show is that let's say that somebody's running a $2 million business and they're encountering they just feel like they're stuck. They were
Right.
1.8 last year. This year they're going to do 2. The year before that they did 1.9. They're just kind of stuck at 2 million.
Right.
One of the observations I've made many times over as a coach is that they're running that $2 million business on $1.5 million systems. So they are really, 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 really good at running a $1.5 million business to the point they can get it to 2, but they are stuck at 2.
Right.
And it's what I've always found for myself is I have to start thinking like a $5 million business
Yeah.
to push through there, or I'll never get there. You can't think like a $2.1 million business.
Right.
Now's the time to think like a make decisions like a $5 million business,
Yeah.
ask questions like a $5 million owner. Listen to
Yeah.
Chaz Wolfe and his insights on.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to say is what's the practicality to that is, well, you got to get around people that have done it, or that that can think a little differently. And so, even though, I've never built personally a $50 million construction company, I will be building a $50 million construction company because I
Love it.
understand the stages of business and how things build on top of each other. And then I'm going to continually get in rooms which is again why kind of Gathering the Kings exists. I want to get in rooms of people who have done amazing things. One, because it's a belief builder. That might sound a little bit of woo and a little bit of like, ooh, like feel like a little soft, especially for contractors. But it's like, I'm telling you right now, come out of the hard, calloused hands, tool belt thinking. And we got to, like, right up here is the thing. I need to get around other people who think differently. And what that will do immediately, first, more than anything, before my operation can change, before I can hire amazing people, before I can get tactical in any sort of way, is that my belief has to be raised. I have to first believe that I can have a $5 million company or a $50 million company. Otherwise, it will never happen, right?
Yeah. It's so interesting that you bring that up as the example, because just before the interview with you, we were running a program we call Construction Millionaire Bootcamp. And today was the second module. So they've only really gone through one class, and now they're in the second module. So we were talking about the takeaways at the end of today's class, so class number 2. And the sharing of everybody around the table who have similar problems, you could just see it was propping up the next person, because they're like, well, I'm not the only one who has a pricing problem or a bad, I know I've got a bad prospect. I went and visited them. I didn't want to do the deal. They signed the deal. I didn't want to do the deal. Now I'm in the middle of the deal. It's a bad customer. And everybody had that same story. So looking around the table, you're like, okay, well, let's all stop doing that.
Yeah.
And then one of the guys did the most amazing thing, which is actually next week's class, which is stop marketing to the wrong people.
Yeah, for sure. And say no.
Take that personal responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. When you get into a room like that, I love the rooms that you're creating. Obviously, GTK does something, not exact teaching style like yours, but in a similar fashion, when you can hear other people share and give their experience, same industry or not actually, which is the beauty of GTK, is that I can sit across from the table of a guy that has a real estate business or a contracting business or a restaurant chain or whatever. And as I hear the things that they're going through or that they've overcome, it agitates thought, as I say.
Oh, that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, it immediately makes me think, oh, you know what? That's interesting. Or I get to share my stuff, and then that someone else is like, hey, have you ever thought about X? Because they're not in my business. They're not in the weeds. And so they can take a look at it and go, something that seems so simple to them from their perspective, their experience, their industry.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a second, that's amazing. I should definitely do that. But what you were talking about, which I think is so important, and I don't want to pass on it, is the isolation factor. The reason why it's so profound for them to be able to go, oh, wait, you have that problem and you have that problem and you have that problem and we all have that problem, is because technically we're isolated. Now, as entrepreneurs listening to a show like this, you're already doing amazing things by like getting around people like Dominic, who are providing, just incredible value to you. And so you can pull yourself up out of this isolation. But it's real. Entrepreneur isolation is like, we are not like everybody else. There's a very small percentage of people
we're weird
like us. And we're weird. We're crazy.
Yeah, we are weird people. Yeah.
Yeah, especially probably you, me, and your listeners, because we're kind of intense. Like, we're doing this thing right now when we don't have to. It's not like this right here. Your listeners aren't making money listening to this show. Although by listening to the show, I bet you they make more money.
Yeah,
but
you're right. If we didn't do it, the world isn't. There's no sucking sound of vacuum in the world. But we do it to add value.
100%. But it makes us completely unrelatable. Listening right now, I'm looking right at you, Joe or Alan, whoever's listening right now. And the reality is that you aren't like anybody else in your family. You're not like anybody else in your world. You've got maybe buddies, maybe got a couple of people that you can kind of watch the football game with. Sure. But they don't understand what you got going on. Yeah. That's why being in a room like Dominic has created, or even listening to a show like this, we're like, man, I understand that guy. I relate to that guy. It builds my belief that I'm not alone. Also, then if he can do it, I can do it.
Hey, are you the learning chair or the president of a local or regional trade association? Well, if you are, I'm going to be offering 10 free trainings this year to trade associations. That's my way of giving back. So if you want to train your membership and talk to them more about profitability in the shop, how to run their people better, how to hire the right people, how to build systems that they can scale so they can grow this business and not have to be working in it every day, or how to be profitable, give me a call and let's figure out a training that's going to work right for your group. Just send me a text message. Actually, my cell phone number is 315-903-7853. And just say, Dom, let's talk about training. Yeah. It's incredible. And you and I have met only a couple times through the podcasts and the YouTube videos that we've done together, but we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about exactly the same thing. So those success breadcrumbs exist. You just have to go out and find them and then follow them. I constantly have to remind myself that the overnight success takes 30 years.
Yeah.
It's not overnight. It's, even winning the lottery is not the key to success, because you have to know how to handle an abundance of wealth,
Yeah.
or you just treat it as money instead of wealth and you lose it.
Yeah.
And it's that mind, who you have to become to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to become it first, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We're supposed to be talking about lean strategies and the abundance
Hey, this is
mindset.
as lean as it gets, baby. You got to have belief.
Have you how much do you guys consume lean methodologies in all of your business operations?
That's a great question. My construction company is technically 3 years old, and so in the first 3 years, it better be freaking lean. That's all I know. So yeah, I mean, there's books. In fact, I actually saw one back behind you, Scaling Up,
Yeah.
Profit First,
Yeah.
E-Myth. I had the E-Myth author on my show. Mike.
Gerber.
Yeah,
Michael
Mr.
Gerber.
Gerber. 100 million, all those actually are fantastic. And I'm a huge learner. I love to read, listen to books, podcasts and YouTube videos like yours. Um, but prudent thinking, in my opinion, is the best way to have a lean operation. And prudent is, I love this word because there's just so many dynamics in this one word. It's
Sure.
not frugal, but it's smart thinking. Okay. I want to be accurate. I want to have accurate thinking or accurate knowledge about my decision making. And that's really,
Right.
for me, when we talk about lean operations, okay, fine. Yeah, we want less people doing more output. We want automations to be able to 10x our abilities to do things that only one person can do. Like, okay, sure, we use automation. There's emails. There's we use VAs. Like, bro, I'm expended out on levers. But for me to even understand this, to me, makes a big difference. So that's what I'm trying to give to your audience is you can talk about lean, but for me, it's accurate thinking that makes
Yeah.
the most difference. When I sit down and I'm making decisions, this is what I'm talking about: being prudent or having accurate thinking. What am I looking at? What are the factors? What are the
Right.
truths? What are the nuances? What do I
Let
not
the
know? What
data
are the
be our
unknowns?
guide.
Right?
Let the data be our guide, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have data, sometimes we have broken data, sometimes we have no data. Right? But I'm a data guy like you. If we got data, let's go to it. Let's make good decisions. But the angle here I want to give to your audience is if I can make good decisions backed by good decisions, that ultimately is what's going to produce not only just a great business, but a profitable business, which is
Right.
obviously what we're kind of trying to get to when we talk about lean operations, right?
Yeah. People think that being a business owner is a risk taker, and I want to go beyond business owner, being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's a scary word for people. It took me a long time to call myself an entrepreneur. In the beginning, I thought it sounded scammy because I was getting MLM'd every second week when I was young.
Yeah, for sure. I get that.
I was, and I'm not knocking people in that business model. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
But they all called themselves entrepreneurs, and I'm like, oh, I better not call myself that.
Right.
And it took a long time. It took a long time, and I had at that point, even when I was struggling mentally to say it, I had built and sold $120 million business,
Yeah. Wow.
and I still just called myself a business owner.
Yeah.
So I appreciate anybody out there who says I'm not an entrepreneur, but what I continually learn is that if I really focus on good data, and I'm not a numbers guy at all. I'm a patterns in the numbers guy.
Yeah, that's right.
But when I find that, what's our magic number? What does that need to look like? What's a real number? How do we measure that? Boy, things change, and it really comes down to personal responsibility, because numbers don't care. They're just numbers. They don't care if I'm happy or sad. It's just a number. Deal with a number.
Yeah, that's right. The pattern piece that you mentioned is so important, and I can't identify the pattern without first tracking. And so,
Right.
a lot of people just don't even track. And so that's probably the golden nugget for your audience is if you want to make prudent good decisions, or if you want to have a lean operation, you have to have data. And so track whether that's lead conversion, whether that's money spent, whether it's conversion ratio on sales, whether it's profitability on each project and job costing. Like there's so many different ways to be able to, there should be lots of ways we're tracking. In fact, I'll go ahead and venture to say this, and probably all your people will love this, but I have owned a lot of different types of businesses, and by far construction is the most complex and the most difficult.
Really,
to
you find it that way?
Oh my goodness, there are so many moving pieces. I've owned a lot of other types of businesses that are also complex and have moving pieces, but in construction, in my opinion, if you don't pay attention, it's not profitable. instantly.
like that. If you're not paying attention to the right things, if you're not tracking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we call those profit leaks. So there's $100 exercise we do, Chaz, and this might even help you with your leadership team. I always say the same way. Everybody choose your headache. I want everybody listening to choose your headache. Is your headache in the area of time, team, money, strategy, marketing, or sales? And people who have a family business, you can just add family business on there. So choose your headache, right?
Yep.
Now let's call that a $100 headache. It's a $100 headache. That's what that headache costs. If you had one thing to change in your business that would make you an extra $100 a day, what would that be? And so everybody goes to their pages and they're like, we would increase the price on this. We would stop our go backs. We would have better internal quality control. So we're not driving to Home Depot to get fasteners, right? Okay, there's $100 a day. It doesn't even sound very sexy. It's $100, but you're open 250 days a year.
Right.
So that's 25 grand right there.
Yep.
But we're not done yet, because that's $100 headache in the positive. What about where you're losing $100 a day from leaky operations?
Yeah.
There's another 25 grand. And then, you run Gathering of Kings and people thinking about family and the importance of that with business. How many times have you heard people say on their bucket list of dreams, we want to homeschool the kids, but?
Right.
Do you ever hear that in your group?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Or we want to take a vacation, but, or we want to, fill in the blank.
Yeah. So how much would $50,000 wrapped in that blue elastic that broccoli's wrapped in, slammed on your kitchen table?
Yeah.
Here, honey, here's another 50 grand. How much of a difference would that make in your family at your kitchen table for vacation, homeschooling, etc.? You just got to solve that $100 a day headache.
Yeah. I think to your point here, a lot of entrepreneurs, well, first off, 91, 92% of entrepreneurs or business owners fall in the less than $1 million a year category.
Yeah.
So, okay, fine. Less than 5% of businesses have a $10 million business or more. And so most likely you're listening right now and you have a less than $10 million business and probably have a less than $1 million business. Okay, fine. Realize where you're at and what the impact of those problems might be. To Dominic's point here, the $100 a day, that $25,000 a year makes a big difference, because really, I was just talking to one of my business partner about this just a couple days ago. It's like, really at like, I don't know, 200 or 300 grand, like take home income, you could pretty much buy everything that you need.
Yeah, you don't need anything else. Now you're just trying to make your father-in-law feel bad.
Yeah. or your father, but depending upon your scenario.
Yeah. How big is your bass boat?
Not my scenario, but many that I know. But the point being is that what you're saying is that you don't need it. I mean, there are lots of things that we can have after that life becomes super fun. And we can help a lot of other people.
Because we have choice. Money gives us choice.
That's exactly right. But that person who's listening right now, who won't slow down to fix the $100 a day problem because it's only 25 grand, it's like, well, wait a second. You're trying to solve $1 million problem, but you don't even have a $1 million a year business. And I'm not trying to put you as a personal person down. I'm just trying to say, let's just recognize where we are. How you get to the $1 million a year is you solve $100 a day problems. And then once you get to the $1 million a year, then we can solve $500 a day or $5,000 a day. Now we just keep going up. But it's like we're trying to solve too big of problems. And what ultimately ends up happening is that we just don't do anything, right? We just keep doing the same things over and over, missing the leaky $100 and not making the profit that we need to invest in good marketing to be able to go to the next level or whatever is necessary in our business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, the numbers just follow. I think we just did this the other day for a $5 million business. And we said, like, you're making $14,000 a day decisions.
Yeah.
Just do the math. 14,000 times 365. It's going to come out pretty close to 5 million. I only know that because I did the math on the calculator this week. Otherwise, I don't know my 14,000 times tables very well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I mean, even in that regard, it's like 14,000 doesn't seem like that much, especially if in a $5 million business, you're making individual, sometimes $100,000 or a couple $100,000 decisions. But when you break it down per day, it's like, okay, well, I guess probably what that principle means more than anything, underneath even what both of us have said, is that it's consistency and it's like just, again, prudent or precise decision making along the way. I'm not missing the little things because I'm so caught in the clouds. A lot of guys think that they have vision. It's because they're just up here thinking constantly. And it's like, well, that's actually not vision. Vision is being able to see something in clarity and then be able to communicate it back down in detail.
And get your team to make it come to life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I wonder if you find the same thing that I do, which is a lot of times people say, "Hey, Dom, I want to make more money." And then when we dig behind that, there's something else. I don't want to answer what my answer is. What do you find when you meet somebody and they're like, "I want to make more money," but you find the real reason behind that is X, Y, or Z?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that, that's I think anybody who is presented with the question, "Do you want to make more money?" would say yes. And then for me, I'm always going to ask why.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for us, just because we deal a lot with this dynamic of family and business and health and faith and lifestyle and kind of like the winning in all areas aspect, is that they want to make more money to give them more freedom. And a lot of times what I've seen is that when they're all in on their business, like I was many years ago, like super obsessed, and I'm super obsessed still, but I wasn't super obsessed about all those other things. I wasn't super obsessed with my marriage. I wasn't super obsessed with my health. I wasn't super obsessed, with my faith and lifestyle. And in order to be able to have all those things, I often think I need more freedom, which as business owners, we equate freedom and money together. Like I have more money, I have more choices, which equals more freedom.
Right.
And so that'd be probably close to my answer, although I've never probably had that direct,
Yeah.
answer to
See,
folks. What would you
that's a
say?
coaching question. I find that people want more time.
Yeah.
They actually want time to do the things they want.
Right.
And then, the real human stories come out. My wife has always wanted to go back to school. Or the most heart-wrenching ones is my mom took care of me my whole life,
Right.
and now she's in a home, and I need her to be in a better home than we were able to afford.
Yep.
Those are the drivers that go beyond
Yeah.
how profitable were we on that last fence job or that reno job, right? That's the reason that you want to make money on that, is so that you have choice and that you don't have to work all the time, but you can employ other people that want to have a great punch the clock type job.
Yep.
Because there's, like you said in the beginning, we're weird.
Yeah.
Nobody puts a pin in your butt in the morning and says, "Go start a company.
Yeah.
Go find another construction contract." Nobody's it's just somehow it's in us. It
Mm-hmm.
just consumes us.
Yeah.
And then we need to focus and channel that energy into, ways that help us succeed.
Yeah, I mean, we're creators, right? I mean, you can be a creator inside of another organization. It's just harder because you're creating someone else's vision. And so the
Yeah.
intensity or the craziness in us comes from that place of I just want to create my own thing as opposed to being like a partial or co-creator in someone else's thing. And maybe we call that a little confidence, maybe a little arrogance, maybe a little just I'm weird and I just want to do my own thing, whatever. But I think that it should be embraced. And you listening right now, you're already like that, and that's okay. I think that welcome to the bright side. But what's going to make you fulfilled, like truly fulfilled, is
Yeah.
what Dominic's saying, which is to be able to have choices. Um, time freedom, of course, time freedom. But you don't want to just have a bunch of time and sit on the couch and not have any money to do anything either. And so all those choices that you mentioned, require more money, and that's what the question stemmed from was, why do I want to make more money? So I
Yeah.
think that when you can identify those things as far as what makes you tick, you start moving at a clip. And I talked about this yesterday actually on a call inside of our community. We were talking about persistence. It's chapter 9 in Think and Grow Rich. But persistence becomes so much easier when you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, and then you've paved the way of good decisions. It's just so much easier to go, no, I'm just going to stick to the course. I'm not quitting. Zero
Yeah.
chance. This is not even a question. Get out of here. Don't even come with me at that.
Shiny things and squirrels no longer pull you off
Yeah,
your game, because you know
exactly.
your game.
You know the
Yeah.
game. That's right.
Hey, are you the learning chair or the president of a local or regional trade association? Well, if you are, I'm going to be offering 10 free trainings this year to trade associations. That's my way of giving back. So if you want to train your membership and talk to them more about profitability in the shop, how to run their people better, how to hire the right people, how to build systems that they can scale so they can grow this business and not have to be working in it in every day, or how to be profitable, give me a call and let's figure out a training that's going to work right for your group. Just send me a text message. Actually, my cell phone number is 315-903-7853. And just say, Dom, let's talk about training. So it sounds like you have a somewhat of a strategic planning mindset. You're looking at the books behind me. Do you use any of these models for strategic planning?
Yeah. We I'm seeing if EOS is back there. We follow
Traction.
EOS for
It's hidden
quarterly
behind the
planning. Okay,
post.
it's on that side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quarterly planning, and annual planning, stuff like that. Profit first we use from like a organization of the bank and the finance and stuff like that. But so yeah, I mean, there's you can strategize yourself out of a room. I think you don't want to be all strategy. Like there's got to be this really
There's got to be implementation.
Yeah, there's got to be action.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably I've seen it many times. We do a personality assessment on all of our members. We use the predictive index. It's just
okay. Yeah.
just money. But I can tell you based on a few key factors, like someone listening right now might be a little bit more in tune to put the boots on and put the tool belt on because they're action takers, they're doers. Okay, great. And then the guy that is just a little bit more of a visionary and thinker, he might lean more towards strategizing and thinking,
and over planning and
over planning. Yeah.
And not putting on the boots.
Yeah. And it's like this guy, we can't get him to slow down enough to like actually help his business, to strategize and think, just pull your head out of the thing for a second and like look at the whole landscape. And this guy over here, we can't get him to can't get anything to, done, gotta get to work, man,
but it's so interesting
when you can recognize where you're at and that there's a place for both in the business. You got to be able to, step into a boardroom for a couple of days and you take off the tool belt or any sort of management or communication skills and you got your whiteboard and you just go to town on what does it look like, where are we going, what's the plan, let's reverse engineer this thing, and then you close that boardroom door and you get back into it and you work at it.
So you mentioned the predictive index.
Yeah.
And then you talked about reverse engineering. And folks, we're talking about level 9 ninja skills coming right here in this question. How much do you prefabricate your ideal team when you're building a company? How intentional are you about, oh, you're smiling already. I can see it there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, go. What do you got?
Well, I mean, first off, my initial thought was the prefab is like, that all happens in your mind first, which is hilarious because this is exactly what I did with my construction company. Like I literally do not know how to do any renovations. Like you don't want me anywhere near a project. Okay.
Perfect.
The actual job site. And so knowing that as the founder, I'm like, okay, what are the pieces that I need? I'm a really good marketer. I'm a really good sales guy. I'm a really good manager. I don't even want to do those things.
I like how you said that with pride. Yeah, perfect.
Right? From the beginning, I literally am visionary only, strategy only. I'm in our weekly L10 and I'm in our quarterly planning only. Okay, so great. So if that's literally all that I'm doing, because I have other things that I'm doing on a regular basis, aka building a community, and then my other businesses are pretty self-explanatory, but then I need to build a team accordingly. Okay, so I need an integrator. Okay, great. This person needs to be operation minded, maybe just a high level communicator, potentially sales experience. I need someone who I can trust on the sales side, who can actually get in and estimate and be able to close deals. I need somebody on the back end to help with maybe some operations, or maybe it's finance, kind of depending upon the other skill sets of the other people. Okay, great. Well, so that's what I did. I built a leadership team. We have an integrator. She has no construction experience whatsoever. But I can tell you what, she will walk into any unorganized space, physical or virtual.
Organize it.
It'll be organized within minutes. Okay.
Love it. Yeah.
And
so you're very intentional. You're intentional. And this is before you put lawn signs out that says we renovate houses.
100%. Yes. This is me up here going, okay, I'm going to start this company. Who do I need? Now, using the predictive index, it's super easy because I can just profile. My business partner with Gathering the Kings, he says, that some people collect, dishes or china, guns, all different types of collectibles. Chaz, he collects predictive index profiles. And I literally have the two people that I found to put this team together, my integrator partner, and then the guy that runs our sales. These are people that I knew from different ways of life. And I had a predictive index on them. And I'm like,
they would be perfect.
Boom. New company.
Yeah. That it's incredible. I'm glad you answered that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And what I want people to take away from that is that it's intentional.
Yeah.
So, I had a meeting with somebody earlier this week, and they said, this is a renovator guy. He goes, my top guy just told me he's got $4,000 in parking tickets. So they won't renew his driver's license. So now he can't drive. So now he can't get to the job site. So now it's my problem. And I had to remember back to when I was much younger in business and I was hiring people that showed up. Instead of saying, I need somebody who has this specific type of background. And so these, predictive index is what you use. I like the Myers-Briggs. I actually like DISC, but it doesn't matter. Now we're just talking about flavors of cake. You like chocolate cake. I like vanilla cake. You like pumpkin pie. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
But when you know the tool you want to use and you start to use it, you literally make a Frankenstein team on paper before you even start.
Yep.
So we have people that want to hire a new office manager. And they're like, well, I'll just run an ad. I'm like, yeah, we should run an ad that appeals to the right office manager and completely rejects the person who's not the right office manager.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so in DISC, we look for somebody who's a CS. I don't know what it's called in predictive because I don't know it as tightly, but you're looking for a certain behavioral style. That's the filter. I won't even accept anybody who's not that style.
Yeah.
Predictively.
Yeah, exactly. You decide ahead of time, which obviously then gets rid of so many decisions along the way because people that apply, I don't even have to think about it because they don't fit what I've already predetermined.
Yeah. Or if you're like me, you just hire the big personalities. I'm like, now this company's an Aloha deck. It's just a, vacation on a cruise line. We're not running a company because I hired everybody with great personalities who interviewed well. No, that's not what we need.
To be honest, that's not just you. That's most entrepreneurs. First off, when an extrovert walks in, they interview well because they're likable. They like people. We like them. They have this big personality, like you said. And it's like, oh, I felt really good about that. And then we hire them and we're like, wait a second. I hired this extrovert for this CS, which is basically someone who's organized and who can be steady and trustworthy. And it's like, wait a second. Not often is this big profile going to do well in that. Sometimes if they've got a little kickback on the organization, but really that person needs to be in sales, or in some sort of promotion, opportunity. But if they're sitting there at the desk in the accounting seat, woo.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. It's we've had that problem before where a company has a collections issue. I'm like, well, what are the systems? What are the processes? How do you do it? And then like, who's in the accounts receivable seat? Oh, it's just, Brenda or Bob, doesn't matter. And you look over there and it's bright, shining personality, super nice, easy to get along with. And you're like,
no tenacity, no follow
what's that?
Yeah.
No follow through. I had a lady call me once. We were renting an office and there were parking spaces and somehow the taxation changed. And she called me and she goes, you owe me $12. And I'm like, I don't know, put it on the next invoice. I'm sorry. She goes, no, you owe $12 right now. And I'm like, okay, she's good. She has no personality.
Yeah.
She's task oriented.
Yep.
Right. She's a high detail person. And that $12 was like a personal offense to her.
It meant something. Yeah.
Oh my God. And I'm like, I don't know, just throw it on the next month. She was like, you owe it now. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like I felt guilty I still feel guilty for the $12.
I paid it 3 times over. I still feel it.
What a great interview. I feel like we could go forever, but that's not actually practical. So if somebody needs more Chaz in their life, which I think a lot of people do, how do we find you in this big wide world?
Yeah, go to gatheringthekings.com. You can take a look at the cool things that we're doing with our community. We've got really cool stuff for obviously the entrepreneurs, spouses. We do family vacations. We've just launched an entire little community for integrators. We've launched a community for kids learning entrepreneurship skills. All kinds of fun stuff inside of our community that you might be interested in.
Yeah. And so it's gatheringthekings.com.
Gatheringthekings.com. Yep.
And then there's chazwolfe.com. Wolf with an E.
Yeah, that's just a little place you can learn about me if you want to. But Gathering the Kings got me and everybody else.
Yeah. I so appreciate you coming on here today and sharing your insights. And I do want people to recognize that you and I have never actually physically shaken hands. We've never really met until couple months ago.
Yeah.
But my point there is we triangulated to the same success principles.
Yeah, that's right.
That I'm hoping people let it just, if you walk down to the ocean, you're like, hey, I'm going to go stop a wave. You have zero chance of winning. That wave is going to knock you on your butt. But if instead you go down with the intention to say, I'm just going to get wet. I'm just going to let the wave wash over me. I'm going to get wet and I'm going to have fun. this episode is one of those crashing waves. Just enjoy what Chaz shared and try to pick up a little bit and just keep moving on. But you can't do it all at once. You just got to keep at it.
Yeah. I'll add one more thing here. Do Dominic a favor, go to the 5-star review for the show, wherever you're listening to it. Because if you got value from this, either from him or myself, in order for these things to keep going, we need some reinforcement. We need some encouragement. And on top of that, the 5-star reviews always make other people jump in and go, hey, maybe Dominic is worth listening to. And of course he is, because he's got awesome coaching programs and he does amazing things for contractors. So do him a solid and give that 5-star review.
Chaz, you've been fantastic. Thanks for being here. And I'm pretty sure you've earned yourself another spot in the future.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.